Hi there, this is Coach Weber, head men's and women's tennis coach at Colorado College. I'm going to do a quick presentation on what we call the block plan and how we work academically here at CC. It's our 50th anniversary, how we use the block plan. So I want to go through with it because we get a lot of questions on it, especially right now when you guys have a little bit more time. So let's get started. So what is the block plan? Basically, each class you take, we call it a block. You take 4 blocks in the fall, 4 blocks in the spring. As long as you're taking 8 classes a year, you're graduating in 4 years. The main difference, though, is you take each of those classes one at a time. If you're in one class for 3.5 weeks, that last half week is basically a finals week. It's group projects, presentations, papers, or it's just a regular final on Wednesday morning. And basically, you're off a class Wednesday afternoon to Sunday night, what we call the block break. That's kind of your chance to recharge your batteries. Have a lot of kids who go up and goof around in the mountains, camping, backpacking, rafting in the winter or rafting in the fall, and could be skiing in the winter months or the early spring months. And then we use those for a lot of the tennis trips, 2 in particular in the spring as well. How does it look like more day to day? So basically most kids are in class Monday through Friday from about 9 to noon. Science labs, if you're in a science class, they run from about 1 to 3 in the afternoon. In tennis season, we generally start practice around 3:30. I do both the men's and women's programs, so one team might practice 3:30 to 5:30. The next team practices 5 or 5:30 to 7 or 7:30. We alternate those time slots week to week. So if you're in that tough science class, you're in labs 5 afternoons a week. Hopefully that one week you're hustling down to practice, but the next week you've got a little bit of a break and the other team's hustling down to practice. We build lifts in there as well. So generally, like some times of the year, we'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and both teams will lift at the same time. They'll lift together at a time slot in between the 2 practices. So maybe it's like one team practices 3:30 to 5, they lift 5 to 6. The other team comes, lifts 5 to 6, and then they practice 6 to 7:30 that night. We do like the morning lifts as well. So this spring, we were trying to do morning lifts. Generally from about 7 to 8 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it just kind of varies year to year in that regard. What are the benefits to doing this? So it allows you to really dig deep into the material. I think the retention of that material is really strong because you're not having to bounce from class to class to class and just put out fires as you go through the material. You guys are used to taking down, let's say, a biology class in 3.5 months. Here you have 18 classroom days to bang out that same material. So it is quite a bit different in that regard. Does help you build relationships with professors. You're spending a lot of time with them in that month-long period. One thing that people don't really think too deeply about, though, is the flexibility that it allows. So on that far end of the spectrum, geology, ecology, environmental sciences, some of those classes, they can go up into the mountains and track around, collect field samples, track animal species, whatever the case is for that particular class, and they're not missing classroom time in other classes to go get that experience. Field trips, overnight trips, those kind of things come up quite a bit. You might have a class that's in econ and you're going up to the Federal Reserve Bank in Denver that day. So your classroom schedule might be a little bit different, but it's a much more hands-on, kind of experience-based way of learning in that regard. Most importantly, particularly as a student athlete, is that time management aspect of it. Is you get the syllabus for that one class for the month, you can look at the tennis calendar and really have a good idea of, hey, we've got a busy weekend of tennis matches here. Maybe you have a midterm that Tuesday thereafter. You probably need to build some extra time the week before. But it's not like you're going from a pop quiz in math to an essay in history and so forth. You just have to figure out those 2 things, and then you work from there to add additional time, whether it's social aspects or different things you want to knock out in your academic career here at CC. How does this work with tennis? So in the fall, we have 19 weeks to work with you guys in Division III. We do about 5 or 6 weeks from the end of August to usually early October in the fall. You guys don't miss class at all. Primarily matches here in Colorado. We play some Division Is, Division IIs, NAIAs. Some JUCOs come out for some tournaments. So we do have a few competition dates in the fall, but it's either an hour north to Denver or 45 minutes south to Pueblo. Off season starts usually early October and goes through about Martin Luther King Day in the spring. So it's a lot of time, primarily a good hunk of block 2 and all of blocks 3 and 4 that you don't have mandatory tennis. We still have voluntary lifts. The kids do maybe captain's practices or upperclassmen organize some sort of hit in conjunction with those times with our strength and conditioning staff. But it's also your time to take tougher classes if you need to. If you have heavy ones that you know are going to be tough from a lab perspective, maybe you take those in blocks 2, 3, and 4. Volunteer on campus or in the community. Get more involved in some other things that you want to knock out, whether it's clubs or other aspects of your college career. The spring edition. Spring is our main season here with college tennis, so we do about 14 weeks or whatever's left from the fall. Usually late January to late April, blocks 5, 6, and 7. Typically block 8 is yours as well. Trips in the block breaks there. So March we get a week and a half off for our spring break. We usually go down to Florida for that trip. This year we were supposed to play like 7 matches in 8 days on that trip. It's a pretty fun trip overall. You guys don't have school hanging over your head, and it's a big part of our season to get our Division III matches in. Usually, like this year, the only time we were going to miss class was the first weekend of April. We were heading down to Austin. Flight was going to be on a Wednesday night. First match Thursday night, practice on Friday, matches on Saturday and Sunday, fly back to Colorado Sunday night. You guys were going to miss Thursday and Friday on that trip, and that's the only time that we were going to miss class between the fall and spring seasons, and that's typically what we miss during the year, only 2 days of class. Down the road, we're hoping to add an additional trip on the February block break. Right now, there's no tennis on that break, but we're hoping to add some down the road. I want to thank you for taking the time to take a look at this. If you have more questions about your personal situation, how, the things that you want to study, how they're affected by the block, we can cover that as well. So please feel free to reach out. It's anthony.weber with 1B at coloradocollege.edu. Check out the website. You can find all my other contact information there. Thanks again.